We're back at Capital Sports. We're with Charvat today. He's been a gunsmith here for 21 years. He's going to help Alyssa, my daughter, get set up with the proper trigger pull for her first elk hunt this fall. What's the procedure?
Well, we feel that a trigger pull job in the area of 3 pounds is probably a good pull for anybody, especially someone starting out. If it's too difficult and too unlike any rifles that you might have fired before, it kind of gets distracting. And we think it's a good plan. That and perhaps making sure you have a good recoil pad are the two things that are perhaps the most important for a young hunter to be comfortable with a gun, besides having a rifle that fits and is reasonably appropriate for their size.
Now, Alyssa, you weighed yourself today. You're tipping the scales at about 89 pounds. Is that right? 79? 79 pounds. And you're all of 4'8"? So those are our dimensions we're working with, Al.
Well, what Remington and Savage have done is make some of their rifles in a youth ladies version that has a shorter stock, shorter barrel, generally a little bit lighter than their standard versions. They come in appropriate calibers for a young hunter, and something like that is what we frequently recommend for someone starting out.
So Al, I notice you have a drop and pull gauge. Would you walk us through what that does?
Yes, it kind of measures your length of pull by measuring your arm length, kind of put it on the inside of your elbow, keep your wrist straight, and put your trigger finger into the hole.
Why don't you give me your arm, Alyssa?
Give you a reading right there. You're right-handed, I assume, and we'll pull this down to where. Now, do you feel that in there pretty good? Yeah, okay. 11 to 11 and a half would be what they would recommend for her length of pull.
Well, what's the advantage of coming into a gunsmith?
I think one of the big advantages would be to make sure that their length of pull, the length of the stock, is appropriate for their size. Adjusting trigger pull, I think, is pretty important. Some factory rifles are pretty atrocious, probably money well spent. Also, it might be a good idea so that we can set the scope distance so that they get a full field of view. Frequently, young people will have stock a little bit too long, the scope's a little too farther forward, and all they can get is just a very small window in the scope instead of having a full field, and we can adjust that to where it'll be more appropriate for a younger shooter.